Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of This Week in the Busch League, hosted by the Chief and the Champ. I'm the Chief, and I'm not sure if we're seeing another great awakening in the United States or we're seeing the beginning of the collapse of the United States.
Ooh, wow, that's pretty serious. I am the champ, and I'm going to go a little bit less serious and tell everybody that I have never finished in the bottom half in the last 10 years.
Oh, come on.
I have not.
When's the last time you finished in the bottom half?
I think it's back when one of our guests, Brian Burke, was in the league. So, maybe he was the bad luck charm for me or something like that.
How bad did you feel when you finished in the bottom half?
Oh, I was on a suicide watch.
A suicide watch?
Pretty bad.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's happening, Raj? How you doing? How's everything in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
We're doing pretty well. I had to watch Jameson this week for about 4 hours a day, and that's pretty difficult with a 2.5-year-old. Although my brother's experiencing a little bit of that now, but we'll discuss that. But yeah, 2.5-year-old by myself, you got to be on, man. You got to be totally on the whole time.
Yeah, these days with all the distractions with phones and tablets like that, you can't be distracted. You have to make sure you got eyes on them the whole time, right? This feels like you're almost back in the Middle East, doesn't it?
Yeah, I break the day down into chunks, like 20-minute chunks, and we do this for 20 minutes, we do that for 20 minutes. Yeah, so, but to mentally prepare that is difficult. Yeah, but it's good.
So the 20-minute chunks. Are the 20-minute chunks because of his attention span or your attention span?
It's both. We both get bored pretty easily.
Good.
Yeah,
Good. That's good to know.
The new show we're watching now is Fireman Sam. It's on, I think it's on Netflix. Yeah.
Well, that could be on a recommended list. Since we're not going to, we'll talk about this later, but since we're not going to have much of a baseball season, but yeah.
Yeah, Fireman Sam. If you're looking for something to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's entertaining, it's exciting. Everybody, is happy at the end.
If he likes cartoons, maybe he won't get this, but maybe you'll get this. Maybe you can watch Rick and Morty.
Yeah. So my wife and daughter told me, don't turn Family Guy on. So that would be the cartoon I watch.
This is kind of like a Family Guy on steroids, so I think you might probably want him to avoid this.
Oh, boy. So speaking about toddlers, our guest today is my brother, Brian. Brian, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I'm doing great. Thanks for Thanks for having me on.
Sure. How are you doing with work? Have you been going in pretty much every day since this quarantine started?
Yeah. So in the beginning, they didn't know what to do. So I work at a pediatric hospital, DuPont Hospital for Children, and we canceled all of our visits. And I'm like a data and a finance guy, so I never really stopped. In fact, once we canceled the visits, the next question is, okay, when can we open? What's the ramp up? What's the projection? When can we start doing surgery? Things like that. So that was in early March. We canceled all of April, and then we started to kind of pick up in May 8th. So we have been gradually increasing volume each day, really since May. So work has been, when you work in the health field and you have a health crisis, it's busy. So.
Yeah, I guess so. And then, so when you're working from home, those of you who don't know, Brian and his wife have a 3.5-year-old at home.
Yeah. He's like 3 and 3 months. And so my wife has her own business, which is, good and bad in some ways, but now is really kind of a positive. And I should say, it's good and bad, right? So there's no HR department, there's no vacation time, there's no leave. If you don't sell, you don't get any money. But the good news is she doesn't have to go in, she doesn't have to do any things like that. So she's able to kind of work from home sometimes.
Yeah.
And give you an idea, like, because we have a 3-year-old, I would get up at 5, work until 8:30 here, work from home, watch. Then then I would take over from 8:30 to noon, watching Bo,
Okay.
and then I would go in until 5 or 6. So
right.
it's a long day.
Well, and and everyone is adapted too, and that's a nice adaptation to your day. It doesn't look like normal, but in the end, you get to spend time with them, and you get to do your work as well. So, why don't you provide the listeners a little background? Your former team name, how many years you're in the league, family. You talked a little bit about your job.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I can't remember my team name at all.
You don't? It was something crazy. It was all right. Are you done laughing? I'll tell you what it was.
I did.
It's Pete Rose Forearms.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was so great. Yeah, because he's a monster. And
he's a monster. Okay.
What's that?
He's a monster. But you're talking about his forearms.
Several different levels. Yeah.
All right. So what about your family? Where are you living now?
Yeah. So I live in Narberth, which is a little bit like Pleasantville. We have a huge playground. We have 3 bars. We have a state store. We have the train and multiple dry cleaners. You can walk. You can walk anywhere. It's very safe. So yeah, it's a great place to live for sure. And then work at Nemours there at DuPont Hospital for Children. I'm a finance data guy for the Department of Surgery and Anesthesiology. And I have a stepson who's 19 who goes to Pitt. I have a stepdaughter who's 16 and she goes to Harriton. And I have a 3-year-old named Bo, and my wife's Molly. And my wife has her own business called Chairloom, puts high-end fabric on old furniture.
Yeah, maybe Chairloom could be a sponsor at one point to this.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Sponsored by Chairloom.
It is, yeah.
And we'll say it for free, to be honest with you. We don't want any money. We just want somebody else to listen to us. All right.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
So you were an official Busch League owner from 2009 to 2015. Just talk about your team's success, or however you define that.
So it's funny. So in 2008, I drafted for Raj. Raj was deployed in Afghanistan, and I actually listened to a little bit of Mike Alexander's, and he couldn't remember how he got out, but that's how he got out, because I did your draft for you.
Yeah.
And I kind of, facilitated that season. And then Mike left the next year, and then I joined. You
took his team.
Yeah.
Right.
I took his spot. I think I even took his team. Yeah. So it's not something, I thought it was probably cool at the time. I was living by myself. I didn't have much going on. So I thought I could, handle it, or would have, some interest in it. But it's just not something that I kind of stick to. I figured you probably understood that, knowing me. I could talk for hours about arm angles and finger positions, as opposed to, who hit 310 and, what year or things like that. So,
yeah, I get that. And, one of the things we wanted to talk about is, so you drafted my team in 08, and I ended up winning in 09. I thought you did really well with the draft. There were some guys that on my reserve roster that I ended up turning over for some decent players for the following year, and I think I finished in the money in 08, and then I won it in 09. It's funny how you took Schmitty's team over and you kept it right about where it normally was.
Well, I probably the only draft I ever prepped for was probably your draft, and so that's probably why, because it mattered to you. But I think the whole reason we won too, or you won the next year, we picked up Manny late, and that was the whole thing. and I never realized what one guy would do to a team, and how you almost made it. Like you said, you finished in the money in '08, because picking him up, man, it was like crazy. What all of a sudden it was juice. Just all that offensive power.
So yeah, I mean, reflecting on that, I actually made a trade for Mark Teixeira, and then he got traded to the friggin' Angels.
Yes, that's hilarious. Yeah,
and then I had to go back out there, but I had Max Scherzer, well, that you had drafted in the reserve round, and I used him as a chip to
build him.
Yeah, and then Manny, and then the next year I had Manny, and he got suspended for 50 games, but I still ended up winning the league. Yeah. So you talk about juiced. Yeah, he was juiced. That was the problem.
That guy got suspended.
Yeah. When Jamie will bring this up occasionally, usually when the fact that I won it once comes up, and it rarely comes up, but Jamie will bring it up in a sense that, didn't your brother draft the year before you? Didn't you have most of those players? And I have to say, yeah, no, that's actually true. Maybe I should hire you every year to draft, and then I'll take it from there.
Yeah. Get out of there. Well, it's funny because you and Jamie were both active about moving players throughout the season, and I wasn't, because it just didn't hold my interest. And I would work a lot, so I just never had my eye on the TV or on the internet for that matter. But yeah, to Jamie's point, and then to the, because Jamie during that season, I would see the things that he would do. He would like pick up Colton Wong, drop Colton Wong, pick up Colton Wong, drop Colton Wong, and I was like, man, this is really a lot of the week to week, day to day stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like you in a way that, you had talked about sometimes you feel more comfortable talking about the mechanics of hitting than actually choosing someone that could help you, on a rotisserie team. And I'm kind of like that too, because I shy away from players that I think I don't know if I'd want him playing for me, and I think, okay, well, really, he's not playing for you, and this is all made up, so don't worry about stuff like that. But sometimes I struggle. Sometimes I struggle doing that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Did for the most part, did you enjoy it, or were you just getting burnt out toward the end? You're like, yeah, I got to get the hell out of here.
Well, I mean, I think I would enjoy it like periodically, right? I didn't stay focused, and then I stunk, and then I would be like, no, I'm ticked off, right? Typical, adolescent behavior, but yeah, it didn't sustain my interest throughout the summer. And I think when you look at when I would see the moves that Jamie would make on a week to week basis, that to me was sort of like the blueprint to win, and he did that a lot, and that just wasn't of interest to me. So
cat's out of the bag, Jamie. Blueprint to win is picking up players and dropping them.
Yeah, but you would pick up and drop, but at least through 2010, 2011, 2012, I don't know if the league is still structured for you to do that, but it seemed like you did that a lot.
Brian, that's really more the fact that I appreciate the implication that I knew what I was doing, but it's more the fact that I really didn't know what I was doing. So all that back and forth is just me trying to throw enough mud against the wall and hoping some of it sticks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's but it's energy, and you have your eye on it, I don't know.
So
I guess there's 2 ways to go, right?
You're a pretty big sports fan. Do you still follow baseball? Well, not this year, but in general, do you still follow it?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm definitely busy, and then to your point, with the 3-year-old, being married, and whereas before, I wasn't for a long time, or at all for a long time, and I just don't have the same interest. But my stepson Marshall is a big fan, and he'll watch every Phillies game here. So there's constant conversation about it. We would talk about Gabe Kapler. He was really a lightning rod of discussion in our home. So I mean, I definitely still like it. I would, to me though, I mean, just my personality is I'd rather coach a junior legion team than watch the Phillies.
Okay.
every night.
So just out of curiosity, where do you land on the Gabe experiment?
You know what? I think that I think extremes are great in high school and Legion and Division III baseball. I think anytime you get into extreme extreme concepts and extreme thinking from a coaching aspect, you're going to lose, right? You have to manage all pieces and be moderate in every way, but be able to kind of put the gas on the analytics and then pull off on the analytics and be more intuitive and give people a chance more. I just don't think it's a straight science. I think that the one thing about baseball is very subjective, right? And so the one thing that analytics doesn't really talk about is confidence. And so people vary, every day. I mean, pitchers talk about it all the time that, they don't have their stuff. Well, I mean, that's a statement of confidence, right? So I don't have my stuff today, but I learned how to pitch through it. And I don't think analytics captures that. The other thing is that I think if you look at the A's and then I think there's some analytics with the Houston Rockets, they're really good for 102 games, but talent wins championships. So when you look at the Rockets, they get to the playoffs and it's like, they shoot threes. Well, that's great, but it doesn't matter if you're facing LeBron, because LeBron's talent or Kawhi's talent is going to overtake your analytic approach. And I think the A's continually go through that as well. Is that they're a good team. They're 90 and what is it? What's the difference? 90 and
62
and 70 and they're good and they get in the playoffs, but then they don't have the talent to win state. You need someone to hit double after double after double with the bases loaded, and that's how you win a championship. And they don't have it.
Yeah, and I agree with that when you look at how the Phillies offensively were built in 10, 11, and 12. Well, I guess 10 and 11, really. They were built like Earl Weaver's teams, like three-run homer, right? And then when you get into that week-long series and you stall, that you got nothing else. And
you got nothing. You got no way to generate runs.
You got nothing else. And their pitching, I mean, look, even when they lost that Game 5 to the Cardinals, it certainly wasn't pitching. I mean, the guy gave up one run in the first, right? Yeah. And they were just riddled with strikeouts. And they scored 11 runs in the first game and then couldn't score 2 runs in the fifth game. And that's some of the even a really good hitting team like that club for a 5-year stretch stalled. And you're right. I think where I fall with Gabe is he either didn't have the intuition or he didn't trust his intuition or he just felt like numbers can't lie. You're right. The confidence and the emotional part is missing in that. And I agree with you. I was glad to see the guy go. He was frustrating to me. Again, Jamie and I have talked about this over months. I still think they should wear stirrups. So, I'm not on the leading edge of change, but I do feel that when a person comes into work, he or she likes to know where they're working. So this is my analogy that if your boss switched your office every day, you'd be like, dude, what the hell? I want to hit third. That's what I'm going to hit seventh. I'm going to hit first. I want to play second base every day. People like that. They like that. And I think when you start outthinking yourself, I think it just screws up people's emotions, people's confidence, and feeling good about what their role is on that team. And I think you saw it with Joe Madden. I think Joe Madden outmanaged himself. That team should have won or should have been in World Series more than just once. And I think if you set a lineup, you let them rip. They're young guys, cut them loose, and see what happens. And you got Javier Baez moving all over the place, Chris Bryant. The guy doesn't even have a position. How the hell is he going to get better?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about Joe Madden. I still think that it was a Game 7 of the World Series. Every move he made, I was like, what are you doing? Stay in the dugout. Stop it. He made so many moves, he should have lost that game, and talent won over. But,
I agree with you. Yeah. All that hype, and they only been to one. So,
Yeah.
You know, they're not that good. And yeah, I mean, they just weren't. And when he had Tampa, he had young guys that needed playing time. So that's why you make those moves. You're like, I have a group of decent players that need some playing time. So you're gonna have to play at second. Sometimes you're gonna play. I need to get you at bats. But when you got all stars, like you guys who are talking about MVPs, you set them in a lineup and you cut them loose. Like, you don't worry about damn statistics. Are you telling me Javier Baez has a better shot of getting on and batting seventh today than he does at first? Come on, stop. Right. Yeah, the guy's a freaking great hitter. Just stick him in a lineup and cut him loose. And that's what I frustrated me about Gabe. I mean, Joe Maddon's doing that with all stars. We're doing that with guys I've never heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott Kingery.
Yeah, Scott Kingery. He said he was going to be the next Dustin Pedroia. Like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? This guy's no better than I am. So anyway, sorry, man. I got off topic there, Jay.
Yeah, no problem. You know, listening to the two of you go, banter back and forth, it kind of sounds like the Cuomo brothers on CNN. So I'll try and reel this back in and try and make it Bush League centric, if you will.
Go ahead. Take it from here.
Hey, Brian, thanks for coming on. When you were in the league, I always liked your perspective because it was so totally different. You had this certain wit about you that was just completely different from others in the league. And one of the things, I don't know if you remember this, is I think you were in ninth place at the time, and you had sent an email to everyone saying that you were suffering from second column syndrome, or SCS. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You want to explain that to everybody? I thought that was one of the things that, whenever I see that, whether it's early or late, I know I have second column syndrome. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, second column. I mean, I think I haven't seen the website, but as I recall, the top
8
4 or top 5?
Top 8.
Top 8.
Top 8, yep.
Yeah. They were on the left side, right? Is that it? And
that is correct.
You were on the second column. Oh, is that it? Yeah, that's great. So only one team would be in the second column. Is that it?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Hey, Brian, one thing that you might be happy to know is that we have 10 teams now. So, it's not just exclusive to one team. There'll be 2 teams in there now. So it has changed just a little bit. So we've added, 50% more teams to SCS. But, since you work for, a medical conglomerate there, maybe you can find something there for SCS. Maybe there's some sort of medical diagnosis there.
There could be. I don't
So, obviously, you and Roger are brothers. What's the age difference between the two of you?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. All right. So what was it like growing up with Roger? Because we all have this impression of Roger, a little bit cocky, a little bit in your face, that type of thing. Was he that way as a brother?
Yeah. I mean, he was really supportive. I don't remember anything too different because it's 5 years, so
okay.
It takes away some of the competition.
Okay.
We weren't really competing for the same stuff.
Okay.
So, what's the age difference between you and Bill?
2 years. We're Filipino. We're Filipino twins. We're 21 months apart.
21 months. Okay.
Can't say that.
I can't say that. So I mean, I think it was, because it was. I think 5 years is a lot. So a lot of times I was trying to, play sports with him, but it was just 15 and 10 is a big separation. It's just hard to play. But,
sure.
But I mean, we certainly played, through football, baseball. I mean, I would throw BP to him. No screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So I guess that difference. I'm 4 years older than Roger, and you're 5 years younger than him. So there's like a 9-year difference between you and I, Brian. But I still remember a few things, whether it was talking through Raj or reading about you in the Mercury. But from what I can recall, is that you were a really good wrestler and high school baseball player. Discuss some of the better moments that you remember from high school in those sports.
So I don't really. I mean, so I wrestled for a program called Kirk Valley Outlaws, and it was run by the future DA of Montgomery County, Mike Marino, and so I would do like my O&J wrestling, and then I would do Kirk Valley. So it was like 6-7 workouts a week, and then tournaments on the weekend. So that really kind of shaped how I was a wrestler. And a lot of those kids that were on that team with me, I think we had a state champion at every level, meaning like
wow,
PIAA quad, PIAA 3, PIAA 2, and then even like, private school, which would have been me. But that team was loaded, and so I was really excited to kind of wrestle for Howie. I kind of knew of the history of it, and then all of a sudden I had the opportunity to go to Hill.
Okay.
But wrestling at Hill probably I was good, and it was good because of the experiences that I had as a kid, as a younger kid. But I think had I wrestled for Howie, I kind of think about what could have happened if I wrestled for him for the full high school years, because he had a certain way to teach people, and which he wasn't very complex, but he taught you how to pin, and was just like, look, you just need to be tough and do a couple moves. But yeah, I didn't really answer your question because I don't know.
That was good. So you actually you played Legion, right? You played and you guys are really good in Legion, from what I remember. That was like the early '90s. You played
Yes.
Legion.
So I would have left there. So I played. I was double rostered my 15. What is it? My 16-year-old year.
Yeah.
That first year in there. And then I lived with my grandparents in the summers, and I played for Chestnut Hill Legion. So I never played for Dorchester except for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then so that was kind of an interesting experience. So I played on against all these South Philly Stars and Northeast teams, which was interesting. But it was a good experience as well.
Okay, and you went on to play at college, right? You went to, if I recall, you went to Trinity College in Hartford.
Yeah. So I went to a Trinity College for 2.5 years. I played for a guy named. I wrestled and I played baseball, and I played baseball. Was a guy named Bill Decker, and he's now the head coach at Harvard. And
oh wow,
he won he won a Division III national championship at Trinity. He was really good. He was the first person to kind of really break down in really fine detail, footwork, middle infield footwork, and just a really good coach, very detail oriented, and a good recruiter. But Trinity was, we had this knack to Trinity itself seemed to get D1 drop down. So let's say I was looking at Cornell and Trinity, whether it was for football or for hockey or for wrestling or for baseball, and then Trinity had the ability to kind of pull that guy down. It was just that there were a lot of kids like that were, recruited by Brown and then Trinity, and then decided to go to Trinity. So,
okay.
And they also had a great football team. They may lose one football game a year for the last 35 years.
Wow. Yeah. I know that it's a really good academic school as well. Obviously, if it's pulling from those schools. Yeah. Okay. So let's go in a little different direction here. I think you played in a couple of wiffle ball games that we had over the years, and it was always one of the highlights of the Busch League season. Do you have any memorable moments that you want to share, or funny moments, or anything like that?
No. I don't. I just remember the last time I played it, it got really out of hand because we were so tired and sore and couldn't do anything. So yeah, I actually don't have many memories. I do like your field. I mean, it was pretty amazing field. It's funny. I always thought I always looking at the field, I always thought I could go oppo. Trying so hard to stay inside the baseball, go the other way, and there was you can't stay inside of baseball with football bat.
No, that was hard. I don't know anybody that was able to hit the opposite field.
No, I think it's an impossible, challenge to keep your hands tight when you have a wiffle ball bat in hand. I mean, that's pretty hard.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Could you still play today?
Sure, I can play.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things you might have heard last week's podcast with when we had Schmitty on, and Mike was really good. And in fact, I think one of the first questions I'm going to ask you in this lightning round is he had said that he had taken over, you had taken over his franchise. And have you made that financial payment to him for the franchise fees, or is that still in arrears?
No, still in arrears, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the check is coming. He just wants me to follow up on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Schmitty knows people who knows people, so you might want to make that payment.
Yeah.
As you left the Busch League, if you had, how baseball players have a walk-up song. What would be your walkout song as you left the Busch League?
Give me 3 steps. I get to full speed at 3 steps.
Nice. How about your favorite? Another favorite thing that we used to do in the Busch League, which we still do, besides play wiffle ball, was Busch League trips. What was your favorite Busch League trip?
Well, so it's funny. So that I think is a really essential part of the Busch League, because you guys are so close, and the only way to really get to know anybody is if you go on a trip. And then even that, it's really important to have a link, right? So me as a brother, or Casey as a son, or Rick, who just spends 10,000 hours with Raj.
Nice.
So I think those trips are important. I only went on one. We went to Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
And after Raj came back, and I thought it was a great time.
It was.
I enjoyed it. The stadium was super hot. It poured like crazy. Yeah. I guess I remember a little bit about the day game, but not much. And then it was just a great trip. I think I had this really bad flip phone. I took pictures on it, and I thought I submitted a report. I submitted a report to you and Tom, but it was never published.
If you remember, when we were on that trip, I believe that Alex Rodriguez was close. I think it was his 500th home run.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. One of the things I kind of skipped over here was, did you want to talk about any of your greatest personal sports moment, whether it be high school or college, anything that you recall?
So you know what, I thought about this, and Raj, this popped up in my head. When I was 14, as I said, I started to wrestle a lot, and I think it was a really, really great experience, and it's one of the things I always draw upon. But I wanted to go. There was a massive tournament. It was called the Penn State tournament. I mean, it was a 9-mat tournament. And I signed up for it, and I thought, man, I probably have a good shot to win it. Blah blah. And for some reason, our dad took us up, which is not normal.
Yeah.
And usually it's just my mom and I, and and I got out of my routine somehow, and when I went to weigh in, I was a pound and a half over. So it's like 6:45 a.m. The idea was, usually you would go weigh in, check your chart, see when you wrestle, get some meat, and come back. But I was like a pound and a half over, and I had to run it off. So I ran it off on this, old style gym where the track was above the gym. So if you run it 27 times, it's a mile.
I do know that.
It's a mile. And so I probably ran 3 miles or whatever, 30 minutes, and went back to weigh in, and I don't know if you were in the locker room then, Raj, but I was like, man, my body's really changing. It's really tingling, and I just was feeling awful, and I got dressed and I went to one of the coaches and I was like, I need to weigh in now, like now. And he was like, yeah, I get it. And so he bumped me up to the front of the line. I weighed in, I made weight, and then I went back and tried to shower and put my clothes on, and my body just totally cramped up. So I officially totally dehydrated myself, right? Totally dehydrated myself.
Yeah.
We went out. I ate like a stack of pancakes and huge orange juice, and I know I won my first match. I got pigtailed, but then I lost the second match. So my greatest athletic achievement is that I actually dehydrated myself and won the next match.
And see, this is what I was talking about you just have a certain wit about you. Oh, my goodness. Hey, when you were in the Busch League, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that I dehydrated at middle school. They sent me to the hospital. I was on IV for 5 or 6 hours, the whole thing. But no, when you dehydrate in state college, you have pancakes and juice, and you get out there again.
Oh, my. Very nice. So when you were in the Busch League, who was the smartest owner at the Busch at the draft table?
Well, I mean, if you talk about just straight intelligence, I think it's Tom and Bill and yourself. So that's it's a toss up.
How about now that if you actually have a little bit of time to yourself, because I guess with a 3-year-old, it's kind of tough. But where are you watching on TV now that there's no sports?
I watch whatever movie my son's watching, and I think the best one I've watched so far is Megamind, and that's Will Ferrell. So.
Okay, all right. So the fact that, like you said, your son Bo is what, 3?
Yeah 3.
And Raj, Jameson is what, 2?
Yeah.
1.5?
They're about a year apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did the two of you ever think about setting up a play date? Maybe you guys can have like a daycare center or something, like a daddy daycare or something like that. The two of you, that would be great. The Burke Brothers Daycare.
Yeah, we would just run a baseball camp.
Or wrestling. Yeah.
So Raj, I want to apologize because I think it's Brian that takes us off the subject here. It's not you and I. It's
right.
got to be Brian. So we'll blame it on him. Let me turn it. Hey, Brian, great. It was nice of you to join us. Let me turn it back over to Raj. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Brian.
Thank you, Jamie.
We appreciate it. We're going to talk about some baseball topics. Feel free to chime in if you wanted to. Jamie, today in baseball history, this 1974, this will never happen again. All right, there's not many things you can use exhaustive words like never, always, right? This will never happen again. So the Angels beat the Red Sox 4-3 in the bottom of the 15th. Louis Tiant, pitching for the Red Sox, pitched 14 and a third innings to get the loss. He pitched the whole game. California starter Nolan Ryan pitched 13 innings. He didn't get the win. You pitched 13 innings, didn't get the win. Throwing 235 pitches.
What? 235?
235 pitches in 13 innings.
In one game.
Cecil Cooper for the Red Sox struck out 6 times. he was 0 for 8 with 6 whiffs. Nolan Ryan ended up striking 19 batters out. he was 27 years old. He actually struck out 19 batters 3 times that season. And to put it in perspective, what Nolan Ryan was before 1980, he had 19 strikeouts and he walked 10. He walked, he walked 10 guys.
Oh my!
So the 235 pitches in one outing, that's not going to happen again, right?
I would say that you saying never again, it probably will never happen again.
And not
probably
on,
over 2 games.
Not on Gabe's watch either. He would never let that happen. And then 2014, June 2014, Jimmy Rollins becomes the Phillies' all-time hits leader with 2,235 hits. It was a record that Mike Schmidt had, and he hit it off of Edwin Jackson. Remember Edwin Jackson?
Okay. He's still going, isn't he?
He is still well. He's on a roster, I believe. He's pitched 17 years in the big leagues. I'm going to throw a question out for you. 17 years in the big leagues. How many teams has Edwin Jackson pitched for? What would be your guess?
Let's see if our guest, Brian, if you're still on the line, do you know the number?
Yeah. No, I don't. But he's a lefty, and I think I had him on my team one year. But I'll say 20 teams.
Oh,
I'm going to say like 15.
16 different teams in 17 years. Yeah.
Yikes.
But you know what? When you think of Edwin Jackson and Bry threw out 20, none of us like, oh, no, that can't be. We were all like, it seems a little high, but it's possible.
I know.
It's certainly a possibility.
You know what? Hopefully when he comes up for Hall of Fame consideration, hopefully somebody votes for him, because I would love to know under what hat would he go under. Would he go in the Busch, the Hall of Fame? I mean, obviously he's not going to make it, but they made fun of Gaylord Perry. But
right.
16, my goodness.
Yeah, it's 17 years. That's a guy who's never bought a house. And then we have the Major League Players Association, and this is what I think. So
all right, so we're going to get serious now, aren't we?
The Major League Players Association just gave up. Said, you know what? They tell Major League Baseball, tell them where and when to show up to begin playing. I think they just threw in a towel on this. What are your thoughts?
I am staunchly pro-player, and particularly in these circumstances, right? Because the owners want the players to take a haircut, and saying that they don't have fans in the stands. So players, you should take a pay cut. And when baseball was booming and they had Baseball Advanced Media, which was big, which was a great program, they didn't say to the players, hey, you know what, share in some of our revenues because we're really doing good with this. And I was reading the book by Bud Selig and talking about Baseball Advanced Media, and he had asked over 4 years each of the teams to put in $1 million a year, so 30 teams over 4 years, to start Baseball Advanced Media. So that was $120 million that they invested back in the mid-2000s, right? They sold Baseball Advanced Media to Disney, was it last year or 2 years ago, for $2.5 billion on an investment of $120 million. So when the Cardinals owner is crying that a lot of teams are making money, I kind of doubt that. And Brian, as a finance guy, they can hide this money all kinds of different ways, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
No worries. That's okay.
No one's paying attention, Brian. No one. Don't worry about it.
So you know what? I have to go, but I did want to put a plug in for you guys. In the sense that I think that I told Raj this. I said, now that you guys have so much experience and it's a total niche, and I Googled like rotisserie and stuff like that. If you sort of market it, like once you start talking about the season and the weeks to weeks and the different players, I think that you may get some real followership, because it's so unique and it's such a niche thing that people will want to know how to do an auction draft. They will want to know how like what's changed in the league over the course of 35 years. Like you have that knowledge, and so I just think this is a cool concept, and I hope that you get some experience, and I hope you get good at it. But I think talking about the season will be cool. So.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah. All right. Be good.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Take care.
I'll see you. Bye-bye.
So, Jamie.
Yeah.
All right. So let's bring this back to the Busch League, our rotisserie league, right? The commissioner, Rob Manfred, has the unilateral authority, right, to institute a season. Now, all his words thus far has been 46, 50 in that range. If there's a 50-game season, what are your thoughts about having the Busch League in 2020?
I personally would like to have the season, even if it's only for 50 games, because I think what it does is that it adds a level of, okay, it's not going to be much of a baseball season, right? In terms of who wins in Major League Baseball, but I think what I like is just a different strategy for the Busch League. Like, are the players worked as much as they did? Somebody can get hot for 2 months, so it's just going to throw things up into a state of chaos. And if we don't have the league, then you have what do you do with retention? Do you retain people? Do they still get that extra year, or do you assume that they played that year? That type of thing.
Right.
What I would say though is to make this really fair. What I would like to do is also reduce the winnings for this year. And if you prorate that basically by 1/3, that means instead of $50 per team, it's $15 to $17 per team is the winnings. That's kind of how I would like to see it. What about you?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. If there's a 46 to 50 game season, you're in favor of having the league.
If we can get people together that quickly, and I would send out Google Sheets to everybody. But if they're talking 46 to 50 games, which means it probably would start late July, early August. If we can get everybody together, yes, I am in favor of it.
Okay, and you wouldn't use the word asterisk when somebody wins this thing?
Oh, I definitely would use it. In fact, I think the winner, along with the limited amount of money that they get, they should get a case of a trash can banger beer. We can find that because it would have a huge asterisk. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that it shouldn't.
All right. I don't know. Okay. So I'm looking at this from two angles here. I'm looking at it from Major League Baseball angle, and I think, well, this is a joke. 50,
it is a joke.
A 50-game season, and then you're going to have a World Series champion. That's stupid. And when we talked earlier, it'd be like if the NFL had 5 games and then started a playoff system. Which, when you think about it, you're like, that sounds stupid, man. Like, what are we doing? I'd be in favor of having the league as well, only because I like having the league. I like the league. Right? I'm realizing baseball's stupid. I get it. There's no validity to this year, right? But yeah, I like the league, and I'd be all for having a baseball or a Busch League for the 2020 season.
And let's really be selfish about this, Raj, because if we didn't have a season, what were you and I going to talk about? We haven't hit our groove yet, because what we plan to do is just make fun of other teams throughout the season. So we won't be able to do that as effectively if we don't have a season. So I think from a selfish standpoint, for this podcast, we need to have a season.
We definitely need to have a season. And I'm not sure about the money thing. I'm cool with the same amount of money, and then I agree with the retention thing. Yeah, I think that would be something we would have to address if we didn't have the season, because those people are going to play, right? Yeah.
Here's what's going to be interesting, Raj, is one of the things I need to do is send an email to CBS Sports and say, hey, listen, we've only have 1/3 of the season. Are you going to refund me 2/3 of what I've already funded for your website? And, oh, by the way, Major League Baseball, I've paid for a full season of Major League Baseball. Are you going to reimburse me 2/3 of that, or are you going to reimburse me 70% of the 2/3?
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know you had that. Yeah, that should have been. They should have addressed that already. I'm surprised they haven't. I'm surprised CBS hasn't addressed it. I mean, they're sitting on people's money. I mean, I have tickets for the Pitt football team, and let me tell you, there's already built-in social distancing there because no one goes, and they've addressed it. They've addressed it with the season ticket holders, saying, "Hey, on August 1st, you're going to have 3 options, and these are the options you're going to have." And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's like when Pitt plays Richmond in the second Saturday in September. Let me tell you, Jamie, there's plenty of distance between these fans. Like there's no one there, but they're addressing the thing. And I appreciated that. In fact, they've come up with a couple options that they're just going to allow the season ticket holders to go, and that might bring it down to into the hundreds, let alone the thousands.
But don't we need some of this money back? Don't you need to pay Def Jam Records?
Yeah, we're in the rears to that, and they don't mess around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no fooling around there. That's what we got to get Brian's wife to sponsor our podcast. We got to pay them soon. So
yeah. So I agree with you about the 50. If there is a 50-ish game season, I'm all for having the league, and I think it'd be good for us. Yeah,
yes, yeah, absolutely.
With the understanding that baseball's stupid, I get that. Yeah, but it's
we can put that in our statement.
Right, baseball's stupid right now. Yeah, yes. And I'm a player person as well, and this does not bode well for the 2022 season, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, this is foreboding.
And the other thing too, the hits keep coming for the MLB. Coca-Cola is leaving after this season. They're going to still honor their contracts. They got 16 local contracts with major league teams, but they're leaving at the MLB level, and they'll probably kick it back to Pepsi, and they'll take over from there. Hell, maybe RC Cola will do it.
Let me let me ask you a question about that, though. Okay,
maybe Frank's
Cola. You said they're still going to honor their agreement, right, after the 2020 season. Should they have to? Because if there's no fans in the stands,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Does it mean as much to them? I mean, like, how does baseball want to be treated? And if Coca-Cola is going to honor this agreement, shouldn't Major League Baseball honor that agreement with the Players Association? I don't know. I just find a lot of hypocrisy in what they're doing right now.
I agree with you, and yeah, I agree with you. It's becoming. I'm like I picture Tony Clark, responded to the owners saying, you know what, just show us where to go. We'll show up when we have to. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever, you clowns. But yeah.
Well, you know what? We're in the age of hypocrisy, so it should be no surprise.
All right, so just to wrap up, Claudell Washington passed away this week. Claudell.
Yeah.
Did you ever have him on your team?
No, I want to say, didn't he predominantly play? I remember him as an Oakland A.
Okay. Well, he played with the Braves for quite a few years.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He sounded like somebody that would have been on your team.
I'm pretty sure he was at some point. So he played with the Braves 84, 85, and 86. Yeah.
Oh, I do see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like in '84 he had let's see, he had a decent year, right?
Yeah.
Batted .286 and 479 plate appearances. So,
yeah, he was a good player. I mean, he's a 60-60 guy, right? You're probably going to get 60 runs, 60 ribs, 10 to 15 homers, steal a couple bases.
Actually, in '84, yeah, he would have been a draftable player. He had an 842 OPS, so that's that by anybody's standards, and a 130 OPS plus. So I know this is not a stirrup talk for you, but Gabe Kapler would get this. So
okay. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the OPS.
No,
I don't know. Yeah, all I know is
how about BABIP and FIPS?
What?
BABIP, batting average of balls in play, and FIP, fielding independent, fielder independent pitching. I don't know.
I'll tell you what.
That's on.
if I'm my 7 and 8 hitters and 9 hitters if I was American League, I would focus on balls in play. Yes. Because I want them to try to turn the lineup over. So I don't want strikeouts. I either want walks or balls in play. I don't care what the hell they do with it. Just figure out a way to get on base. Put the ball in play. Yeah, I would look at that for my 7, 8, and 9 hitter in the American League. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and I was right. FIP stands for fielding independent pitching. So I was right.
All right. Well, that makes your night then. We figured out what FIP means. I still don't know what the hell it means.
Oh my.
And then we have a shout out. Congratulations, Sam and Sean Kirk graduated from high school, Moorestown High School.
Yay!
Right. Sam is headed to Penn State, and Sean is.
Yep.
Is this confirmed? He's going to NYU.
I'm pretty sure. I believe that's what Bob told me. But in this day and age of coronavirus, I guess until you actually step foot on campus or get in front of a computer, nothing's a sure thing at this point.
Right. What's NYU's nickname? Do you know?
I think it's called it's the Manhattan Transfer, isn't it?
What?
No, that was a bad musical joke. Sorry, I have no idea.
New York University. What are they? Fighting accountants? What's their nickname?
Fighting accountants.
I'm on their website now. I don't see it. And I know they have a sports and stuff. Huh? I don't know. Maybe that's something we got to come back with.
I think it's the Violets. Believe it or not.
You're right. It is the Violets.
And the mascot is a bobcat.
Huh. Well, that makes sense. All right. The Violets.
That makes sense. It makes no sense, but
that's kind of a cool nickname. Violets.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else? Oh, I forgot to mention that. So Bry's stepson Marshall, he's 19. He's starting his sophomore year at Pitt. Let me tell you, if we have an opening, this is a kid that I call him a kid. He's 19. Of course, 30-year-olds are kids to me. This is a guy who would fit right in. Yeah, he understands this stuff. He's very analytical. Yeah, he definitely understands it. He's a good dude. Christy and I see him when I go out to Pitt games. Usually on Sunday, we'll stop and have lunch with him before we head home. He's a good guy. He's a good dude.
You know what? I like that idea, and I think that Brian had floated that idea, or he had talked about it in general. And this would probably have been when his stepson was probably 14 or 15. Hey, the more the merrier. So I kind of like the idea.
Yeah, if we ever lose someone or decide to expand, this is someone whose name we should talk about. Other than that,
hey, last thing. Yeah, last thing from me. I think tonight on ESPN is the documentary on 1998, the home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, called Long Gone Summer. Any interest in watching that?
Yeah, I actually watched the trailer on it, and it did catch my interest. I'm surprised they call it Long Gone Summer. I think you would call it juiced.
Well, maybe it's a bit of foreshadowing for the 2020 season, long gone summer. So who knows?
Oh my gosh, yeah. If baseball would allow steroids to come back, if we have 50 games, I want to see like a wiffle ball. See, watch balls flying out of the park, man.
You know what? Hey, if the owners are going to demand the players play, then they should also make them wear stirrups.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I would ask.
Yeah.
Throw that in there. Why not?
I think Jamie Moore is the last person to wear stirrups in the big leagues. I think anyone's worn them since. All right, so
on
next
a future
week,
podcast, I will tell you about Jamie Moore, my running into Jamie Moore. So
okay,
I'll save that for a later podcast.
All right, so next week we're lining up a guest to talk about, kind of pros and cons, unintended consequences of this baseball year or lack of baseball with the drastic shortening of the draft. Cutting minor league players, extension of colleges, given extra years of eligibility to seniors this year, or kids who were redshirted and they're allowed to come back. So yeah, we're going to have him on. We're trying to work that. We got a deal in the work now. So I think it'll be really interesting. I think it'll be good. So you're going to send out an email with interest and dates for the draft?
Yes, draft dates.
Okay. Yep. And we still haven't figured out when baseball hasn't announced when the season would actually start. So we may or may not have some time on that.
Yeah. I'll try and send it out maybe late tomorrow to see what I think the owners the agreement was going to expire today or something like that. So we'll see if there's any movement on that, and then I'll send out potential draft dates tomorrow.
Okay, that'll be good, man. This was a good show. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Brian was great. He was awesome, as expected.
All right, buddy. So have a good week.
All right.
Stay safe, and see you next week.
All right. See you, Raj.